Hey guys, this is Brad from Blue Nile Farm. Welcome to the Farming from Scratch series. Today we're talking about compact tractors and it's episode number 17. And this is really a good topic to discuss today because if you are a landscaper, a small property owner, or a small farmer, this might be the machine for you because everybody needs to start out somewhere. And you may be already thinking about getting yourself a tractor. You just bought your farm and you want to get started and you need to maintain that property. So today we're going to cover the compact tractors and why that might be the best tractor for you to start depending on your situation. So what is a compact tractor? Well, to me, my definition of compact tractor is something under 50 horsepower, mostly around 40s and down, but between 40 and 18 horsepower. And basically they're small in stature. They're not, a lot of times they come in with the loader and they're either a smaller type of equipment. It has PTO and it has hydraulics. And they're smaller in weight. They weigh anywhere between 3,000 to 1,500 pounds. And they're just a good type of tractor that you can get a lot done with it. What's nice about it, it has many different uses with a compact tractor. And because of a lot of things that you can do with it, such as mowing, you can get a brush hog for it. You get a finishing mower. You can even get a flail mower for it. So you can kind of get the best of both worlds there. You can do tillage with it, whether you get a small rototiller or you can get other attachments that will help you in grading, leveling dirt, working your driveway. That will be a big help for a lot of people, especially if you have a gravel driveway. If it does have a loader, which a lot of them do in today's market, especially if you buy a newer machine, you can get different sized buckets. You can get grapples for it. You can use it for dirt, you can use it for snow, and you can use it for manure. So there's a lot of different uses for it. You just have to find out what application works best for you. And you know, that's something that you get to explore as you go. And this is kind of like I'm just trying to open you up to different possibilities. So why would you even think about purchasing a compact tractor? Well, a lot of people, the biggest reason that they look at a compact trailer is the cost. You know, they're probably some of the cheaper type machines that you can get, but they could be quite expensive. You know, a cost for a brand new tractor could be up to $30,000 for a small compact. You know, it's between $10,000 and $30,000, and you can get a good used one for anywhere between $5,000 and $10,000. So it all depends on what you're actually looking for, but you know, the cost always comes into play. You know, and it depends on what you want to do with it. Also, you look at the versatility of it. You know, when you have a machine that has all kinds of attachments that you can use it for many different things. So you got to look at the versatility factors of what you can do with it. And that is based on you going around and exploring what's available. For example, you know, we talked about attachments, but being versatile, there's other attachments that we haven't discussed. You know, I talked about buckets. There are stump buckets. There's different types of grapples that are out there. You might find postal diggers. You may look at chippers. There's just so many different types of attachments that could fit behind a small compact tractor. You'd just be shocked. Because what they wound up doing is looking at what bigger tractors were actually using and they downsized the equipment. So there's a lot of diversity that are available to you. You know, a lot of people with compact tractors are always looking for like tillers, you know, because they're always looking about doing gardens with them. So it makes a big difference for what people's needs are. Also, these little machines, these small compact tractors, are basically a space saver, meaning that they can get into tight places, they don't take up a lot of space, they're easy to kind of navigate in and out of gates and so forth because they're really not as large as the bigger tractors. And a lot of times they're very fuel efficient. You know, you can find a compact tractor in diesel or gas. It all depends on what you choose and what you like. And you have different types of motors, just like any other brand. So when you're looking at a compact tractor, and after I discuss all these things to you about what are the attachments and what are things that are available, you got to look at what are the key considerations when you go out and buy these things. You know, first off, you got to assess your needs. And this is probably the one thing that probably kills a lot of people in buying the right tractor, is that when you make that purchase, you're looking at right now, what do I need to do with my tractor? You know, when we talk about compact tractors, we're looking at machines that basically are probably versatility is the most important thing. So a lot of people, when they move from the suburbs, they move out in the country, they are looking for a machine that will cut their grass. That's always part of their needs. And a lot of times they're also looking at putting in a garden. So they're always looking at some kind of tiller. And if you're living in the snow belt like I do, you also want a machine with a loader on it that can actually push snow, or has a box scraper on the back, or a back blade where you can actually scrape snow. So there's a lot of different opportunities for you, but you have to find out if that meets your needs. So by knowing what the attachments are, knowing what your goals are on your property, and what your kind of outcome is down the road, that's where you need to look at. But the other issue to assessing your needs is you can't look at where you're at today. You have to really look at where you're going to be at 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the road, because what happens is when people buy a small tractor, they don't think that far ahead. And they're not looking at the diversity of what you can do with these things. Or, you know, if you're growing, maybe that tractor's too small. And the reason I tell you this is because a lot of times when you make that initial purchase, it's a machine that you may have for the rest of your life. So you want to make sure you're getting the best one possible. That's why picking the right size with the right features, with the right horsepower, it's important. Because most people, I think, when they go out and they look at a tractor, in their head they're thinking, what size do I need? And they're looking in their mind a visualization of my size tractor, the perfect tractor should be this size. So when they go out and see a dealership and they're looking around, they're looking at that tractor and go, that's the size for me. It may be, may not be. Secondly, horsepower. You know, they don't understand the concept of horsepower to the tractor and what you can do with it. The bottom line is the more horsepower, the more you're going to be able to do a lot more things with it. Because that horsepower that's on that tractor is what, there's a part on it called a PTO, which is called a power takeoff, and that runs some of your attachments. And so the greater the horsepower, the more horsepower that PTO will do, which in turn will give you a better result in whatever you're using as an attachment. So the bigger horsepower that you have, the better the PTO, the better your outcome is going to be. So that's part of it. Also, you know, when we talk about horsepower, we're also looking at, are you able to dig dirt or push dirt, or are you able to really get in and get the job done? Because a lot of times if you're lacking the horsepower, you're not going to have the traction or the power to do the things you need. So these all come into consideration. Also, there are a lot of different brands and models that are actually on the market. And, you know, one person will like one brand, another person will like another brand. And I'm not real picky on brands. I suggest that you do is go out and see what's available for those brands. Because even when we talk about attachments, there's many different brands of attachments that go along with brands of tractors. But what's nice is most attachments are able to fit many different types of tractors. So you're not buying an attachment that's specifically made for Kubota or specifically made for John Deere. They're all interchangeable, but you want to get the best tool possible that'll be beneficial to you, and that's where it comes down to. The other thing is you have to look at if you want a two-wheel drive or a four-wheel drive. I will tell you this right off the rip, that if you're thinking about having a front-end loader on any machine, you definitely want four-wheel drive. I will never have a loader with a tractor that is not four-wheel drive, especially on a farm tractor. And the reason for that is, you know, you need to get that traction to get in there and dig into something, be able to lift. And the problem is when you're lifting, and all of a sudden you may only have rear-wheel drive, and all of a sudden the front end's coming off the ground, and your rear wheels are not making contact with the ground, you're going to have problems. But if you have the front wheel drive, it will actually be able to pick you up and move you the direction you need to go. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about it. But four-wheel drive for compact tractors is a lifesaver a lot of times. It'll keep you from getting stuck. And that's something you may want to pay attention to too. But no matter what you're looking at, when we're talking about key considerations, you're always looking at your budget. Because how much money do you want to spend is going to be a big difference, you know. And this is when we get into who are you going to buy from? Are you going to buy it from a dealer, or are you going to look for a used machine? You know, you can actually find a bigger machine at a better cost, depending on if you want to hunt around, and you may be able to get the same results getting a used machine. The downfall is if you're not paying completely in cash for it, you're going to have to get a loan. And if you get a loan, you're probably going to pay a higher percentage than you would be buying a brand new tractor from a dealership. On the other hand, if you buy from a dealership, you're going to have warranties and you're going to have a brand new machine. So you're going to have something to kind of back you up on. Because the downfall on the downsides to having a farm tractor is that there are initial costs of the purchase, but there's also the cost of the maintenance. And maintenance and repairs can get quite expensive. And it does not matter whether you have a large tractor or a small tractor. You know, tractor repairs about $100 an hour, pretty much on the minimum side, going up to $200 depending on where you go. You know, but think about the expense, because they're going to be quite expensive. Nothing's ever cheap. You know, when things break down, for me, it's at least $1,000. You know, and I'm used to that. And it's just something, just like your car, you're not used to having breakdowns. But one thing I have found out, though, in my personal experience, that, you know, when I do buy tractors, you know, I bought new tractors more than I've ever bought a new car. And the tractors will last me a lot longer because I use them a lot more, because they're a useful tool, where my car is just basic transportation or my truck. So I don't use it the same way as I do a tractor. But those are important things. The other thing when you talk about your initial costs is that, you know, when you buy a tractor, you have to look at storage, because where are you going to keep this tractor? You know, what's nice about compact tractors, they're very small. You can park them, and you can put them in a shed. You can put them in a shipping container. You can put them in a small spot of your garage, and they don't take up a lot of space. So that's one of the benefits of a compact tractor, nice and small. The other thing, though, is that there's a learning curve, because every tractor has different ways to operate, and some of them even like shifting. You might have a manual tractor where you have to depress a clutch and put it into gear, or you may have something called a hydrostatic, where you actually can use your foot pedal and you push forward, the tractor goes forward, and you put it in reverse, it goes in reverse, and there's certain gears that you can put in for different speeds. And that's how that machine works. So, and a lot of compact tractors have hydrostatic, and a lot of people like that. And you see a lot of that with a lot of the riding lawnmowers that are out there on the market. You know, so, you know, there is a learning curve to this. Also, there's a learning curve to all the attachments that you use. And this is where you can get on YouTube, where you can watch other people do or how they use the equipment. And it can kind of walk you through the different types of equipment that are out there. And that's what I suggest you do. Watch my videos, watch other people's videos, and watch the equipment that they're using with compact tractors, and they'll tell you, you know, what works and what doesn't work. Or you can get on the internet and get on like Tractor Buy Net, and a lot of people have a lot of their opinions. But be careful when you listen to people's opinions. And the reason for that is, well, some guys are all hyped up on a certain type of tractor, or a certain brand of tractor, or a certain model of tractor, and they think it's the greatest thing in the world, and it may not be. You need to be the judge on the equipment that you purchase, and that's why it's very, very important for you to go out and see many, many different dealers and try a lot of different machines before you make a decision, and don't just buy the first thing that you see. And trust me, a lot of people do that. Shop around and do your homework on this, because, you know, buying a compact tractor is very important if that's the route you're going to go, and you definitely don't want to make a mistake. And the sad part is, it's very easy to make a mistake. Now, the reason I bring all this up about compact tractors is that I actually started off in 1995, and I bought what's considered a compact tractor. And when I bought my property, I had bought 32 acres, and it was raw land, and it had some, you know, basically a little bit of pasture, but mostly woods. And I wanted a machine that could, you know, run a brush hog and basically have a box scraper and do some basic things. But I knew my ultimate goal when I started was land clearing, getting rid of trees and being able to cut and see what I have. And I grew up on a small farm, and I grew up with the Fords. And if you're familiar with the old tractors like the Ford 800 or 600 or an 8N or 9N, 8Ns and 9Ns were very small. They're about 25 horse, 30 horse tractors, and they were super popular in the 50s. And then they had larger versions, which is the Ford 600 and the Ford 800. And the Ford 800 is about 40 horsepower. I bought a Ford 800 because I was familiar with the 600 series. I understood the tractor, and they were a 1950s version, and this is 1995. So the tractor was, you know, 40 years old, but it was gas. Parts were readily available. They were very cheap. And I bought the tractor and a brush hog for, I believe, $4,500. And at that time, you know, that was what they were going for. And it was cheap horsepower for me, and I was all happy because I had a tractor that was redone, repainted, and I bought it, and we started cutting this ground here and clearing and trying to develop my property. And back in those days, there weren't a lot of tractors that are out in the market now with front-end loaders and four-wheel drive. So I was stuck with a two-wheel drive tractor, and that poor little tractor worked its ass off. And it, you know, I did a lot of land clearing with it. I did a lot of brush hogging. I got a lot done with it, and I was very proud of that machine, but it really took a beating, and it wasn't made to the things that I had to do. You know, I was even taking brush, and I bought a box scraper for it. I bought a post hole digger. I wound up buying a York rake, and those are the rakes with the tines, and I used that to put my lawn in, and I developed pads for barns. I was able to do a lot of leveling and grading with that little tractor, but the tractor had a lot of limitations, and it didn't offer all the things that the tractors in today's market you can use. And it didn't have any third function valves in it. It was just basically a bare bones tractor with 4 gears, and it actually went a little too fast to run a rototiller. And that's one thing you need to learn about your attachments, is that certain speeds work certain attachments. And this was a 4-speed tractor, and when you were in the slowest gear, which is first gear, it would go actually too fast for a rototiller, and it would actually like drag it instead of allowing it to go slow and work the ground. And it was capable of lifting a 6-foot disc, because I bought one of those, and I also bought a 2-bottom plow. And I used that also to try to clear and plow up the ground as we cleared on the property. And it had some shortcomings with that because it didn't have enough horsepower, and a lot of times I would actually try to plow, I'd hit a rut, and all of a sudden the tractor would do a wheelie, and it would just basically, you know, cause a lot of damage, not only to the tractor, but I also got hurt a couple times because I slammed my knee into the, you know, tractor. So, you know, because you're sitting on it. And you can get killed that way. So it's really something you got to be very careful of, getting the right tool to do the right job. So basically I pushed that tractor to its limits, we'll say. And but it did a lot of good work for me at the early days. But it didn't take long, you know, to grow out of that tractor. And I'll kind of explain that as time goes here. But for me personally, that tractor, when I did buy it, I did not use it for cutting my grass. It was designed specifically for brush hogging. So when I actually built the house and I cut my grass, I actually bought a riding mower. That was basically my main cutter. But with these little compact tractors, you know, you can get finishing mowers and be able to cut and do all kinds of things. So in my opinion, right now as we talk about compact tractors, the best person that should own a compact tractor is somebody that owns 2 to 3 acres, in my mind, even 5 acres. Basically is looking for a tractor that just wants to use it to cut their lawn. And if they have a concrete or asphalt driveway that's already made, and even if it is gravel, but primarily concrete or asphalt driveway with a loader, 4-wheel drive, and you're able to plow out that driveway, that would be a great machine for you. And even if it is gravel driveway, it'll work for you too. The downfall with the compact tractors is they are small, so you're not going to be able to push a lot of dirt with it or snow. And you know, if you get a large amount of snow, like 2 or 3 feet, and all of a sudden you have this little tractor, you'll be there all day. Let's put it that way. It's going to be hard for you to actually get going. But if you attacked the snow as it was coming, and it had 6 inches down the ground, you got out there and you just kept working on it, you'd be fine. So that's part of it. The other thing too is with these loaders, that you're only going to have a lift capacity about 1,000 pounds. So you're not going to be able to lift that much weight. So if your goal is to lift a ton or a pallet full of stuff, you're not going to have that ability. So be prepared that that's going to be one of the things that are going to bother you, so you're not going to get the lift capacity that you're looking for. And I have a neighbor who buys hay from me, comes down with his tractor, and he has a compact tractor, and I think it's like 20-some horsepower. And he has a bale spear, and I make 4x4 bales. And those 4x4 bales weigh about 500 to 600 pounds. He can spear them and take them down the road, but he can't take a 4x5 bale, which weighs about 1,000. It actually outlimits him. He can't even get the bale in the air. So lift capacity is key. And also these buckets on a compact tractor are very small. You may only have a scoop that's only going to scoop maybe a wheelbarrow's worth of material. You're not going to be able to get a large quantity. And you know, when you actually get dirt in that bucket, you have to understand that dirt weighs a lot, you know, per a yard. A yard of topsoil could actually, or dirt, itself could weigh up to 2,000 pounds. So it's very easy to get a lot of dirt in there and all of a sudden be overloaded. And it's harder for the machine to work it. So just be aware that the lift capacity is going to be an issue a lot of times when you're dealing with compact tractors. If you're just working it for mulch or using it as a mobile wheelbarrow to carry materials around, that's fine, but just don't expect to get a lot of weight or use out of it with the compact tractor, because you know when you get into bigger tractors you're able to do a little bit more with it, but you know you're limited, and that's the thing. But there is a big difference between in my opinion about using a loader in general, and we'll talk about that another day. But you know, compact tractors, take that in consideration because lift capacity is a huge concern. The other concern, what I found out too with compact tractors, is that you can only lift only so high. Because remember, these are small tractors. So their lift might only go up this high. And that's nothing. You know, I have a Kubota that can lift all the way to 14 foot. You know, and that's a 70 horse tractor. A 30 horse tractor might only lift this tall. So you know, a lot of times if you have a dump trailer, or even in a dump trailer is low profile and it's only about this tall, you know, if you put sideboards, you're this tall, a lot of times compact tractors will not be able to lift that high to get the lift to actually dump the material. And that's a huge problem too. So you have to also take that in consideration. So getting the right tractor and getting the right compact tractor to meet your needs is very important. And like I say, if your goal is knowing that you're just going to cut grass, get a rototiller, you know, plow your driveway, you know, and know that there are limitations with that loader and what you can lift, I think you're in good shape, and that might be the perfect machine for you. And, you know, but you may quickly outgrow that machine, and that might be something that you may now, that this might not be the machine for you. But I just want to cover compact tractors very briefly. And the other thing too is you got to look at the attachments, because a lot of people have their goals and you watch and you think to yourself, man, if I had a chipper, this will work for you. But when you find out, when you take the chipper for your compact tractor and you can only can chip, you know, 2-inch sticks, you know, it's really might not be worthwhile. So you have to decide, because there's a huge price tag to a lot of these attachments. And when you're paying $1,000 or $2,000 or even more for an attachment, you want to make sure it's going to do the job that you're paying for. You know, just because they market these to larger machines, you know, now they're making them so it will attract the compact tractor user, but you may not have the same productivity, or you might not get the same results as somebody that has a larger tractor because they have more horsepower, you're able to do more with it. And that's kind of what I want you to understand. So do your homework first thing. If you're interested in a compact tractor, go to a lot of different dealers, check out what they actually have, see if that's something of interest to you and if that's going to work for your goals and your ambitions, and find out if that's going to work on your farm 5 years from now, 10 years from now, even 20 years from now, because you're going to realize that might be a tractor you're going to keep maybe for the rest of your life. I still have that little Ford 800. It's been 30 years. I don't use it. It needs a little TLC. It needs to get started again. And if I did use it, it's just going to drag a little bit of equipment around. The other thing too is I wanted to point out too, that's an older machine. It doesn't even have power steering. You know, believe me, nowadays everything has power steering. It's a lot more comfortable. And even in compact tractors, you can actually get a cab for those tractors if you're interested in. So if you're in the snow belt and you're dealing with cold weather or rain all the time, that might be something of interest to you too. There's so many different things that are out there, but again, you're going to pay for it, and it's not necessarily a cheap route. So again, my suggestion is go to as many dealers as you can, see what they have to offer, talk to a lot of them and find out as much about that machine as possible and try those things out. And if you can borrow somebody's machine or rent it and see if that works for you, you're better off, because if you buy one, take it home and find out it's really subpar and it's not what you thought it would be, you're going to be very disappointed. And you know, if you're spending $25,000 or $30,000 on a brand new machine with a bunch of attachments and you feel like this is not going to work for you, you're going to be very upset. So take your time, use due diligence, trust them. You know, check out the loaders, see how fast they go up, see how you like them to turn. See if that works for you, because if it doesn't, don't buy it. And try out different brands. Every brand is different. There's pros and cons to every one. I'm not picking on every type. You know, pretty much they're all built the same. They have the same style hoods. They're all cheap nowadays. All the new tractors, basically a flimsy metal on them and plastic, you know, and you don't have solid bodies like the tractors of the 50s, 60s, 70s, you know, that were built where you can stand on the hood and nothing ever would bend them. You know, nowadays, these little tractors, you could take your finger and push down the hood and you make a dent. So it's really not, you know, that exciting. They have big fancy tires and they look bad, but they're very, you know, flimsy as far as I'm concerned. So do your shopping, look around, do your assessment, you know, and that's my opinion on compact tractors. Check them out. If that is of interest to you, to really think about and assessing what your true needs are, because that's going to be the difference. And don't let anybody talk you into buying something, because the bottom line is this. If you go to a dealer right now and you say, hey, I'm interested in a tractor, the first thing you're going to do is run up to you and say, what are you going to use it for? And you're going to say, well, I'm going to brush hog, rototill, I need a loader, and I need to plow my driveway, or whatever. And they're going to say, well, you need this. And they're going to push you to maybe a model that doesn't interest you, or it's too small. You know, some of these little compact tractors also have backhoe attachments that are very expensive. But you understand, you have a little backhoe. I mean, honestly, what are you really going to use it for? You know, it's not really that it can do a lot of damage in the digging. And sometimes you're almost better off buying a machine that's what they're made to do versus a one that's made for a tractor, because you're going to be a lot more durable and they're going to be a lot stronger and you're going to get better results. So I want you to keep that in the back of your mind too, because you can get talked into buying all kinds of things. You're going to think you're going to use all these attachments. You're going to find out that might not be the case either. But these are compact tractors. They're good little machines, but it has to be for the right person with the right needs. So check them out. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll talk to you later, and I hopefully you enjoyed the podcast. Leave me some thoughts on what you think about, you know, compact tractors. But, you know, a lot of us buy something and we have buyer remorse. My little tractor worked for me back in the day, but would I do it again? Probably not, because nowadays, newer tractors, and at least in tractors on the market as of today, 2025, if I was looking for a tractor, you know, I can find a tractor with four-wheel drive. They all have quick attach, so you can get different buckets all the time. It's real easy to change. You can get grapples. You can do all kinds of things with all kinds of machinery, and it would have been more beneficial to me when I was doing then than I do now. But, you know, worst part is it comes down to cost. And I think budget is what affects everybody. But don't be afraid to buy used if that's the case, because you can get a bigger machine for less money, and you're going to be happier with that than it is to buy a brand new machine and spend a lot of money and be dissatisfied because it doesn't do enough for you. Again, thanks for watching. Talk to you guys later. Stay safe.